Good morning, fathers of daughters. This is Ephraim B. Martin, and this is another live stream. Welcome, all fathers of daughters, regardless of your ethnic group, background, and culture. Welcome. Yes, sir. Today we're doing another live stream, fathers. And today's topic is why weak men come for our daughters. And fathers, what I'd like to discuss that is because we are dealing with situations where we have weak men that are coming for our daughters. We're in 2024. So I'm pretty much speaking to millennial fathers who have alpha daughters who are turning 14 years of age this year because this is 2024. So alpha daughters were born in 2010. So they'll be turning 14 years of age this year for all those alpha girls as well as alpha boys. Let's see. Gen Z, the tail end of Gen Z, boys and girls are getting ready to graduate from high school, and the youngest ones are 15 and 16. So millennial fathers, you need to listen up and you need to be aware of exactly what is going on in today's world as far as these weak men that are coming for our daughters. I'm going to share 3 videos with you today, and we're going to be talking about the manosphere. And what exactly is the manosphere? The manosphere is pretty much based on the 1999 movie The Matrix, and it's regarding the red pill and the blue pill. And today, so many men have decided to come online, and they have created these groups of men where it's pretty much men against women. And as a father of adult daughters, what's very concerning about it is earlier, I would say back in July, I made a couple of videos regarding specifically Black men. One video I made is Black men stop blaming Black mothers for the failure of our daughters. And another video I made the following week behind it was called The Blue Pill and Red Pill Metaphor. It's all bullshit. So I researched over 300 Black male content creators. Red pill, mostly red pill. About 95% of the videos I researched were red pill. And very, very disturbing fathers. And the reason that I researched them is from having adult daughters, 35, 29, 26, and 23. I wanted to fully understand exactly where these millennial and Gen Z men were coming from and why they come so hard for women, our daughters. And the first video I'm going to share with you today is about 24 minutes long, talking about the manosphere. I'm a father of Generation X. So our generation of men, we were built different, and we're just different than millennials and Gen Z men. And what I've learned over the last few years is that you pretty much have a bunch of men out there that they're just against women. They're against feminists. They're against modern women. They're just against women. So what has happened is you have this echo chamber, right, within social media platforms, within YouTube, where all these men come together and they share ideas, and they lie, they cheat, they steal. And what their goal is to exploit our daughters, take control of our daughters' minds, take control of our daughters physically. And the ultimate goal for these men is to have our daughters get on their page, whatever their page is. Most of these men have no desire to marry our daughters. They only want to sex our daughters. They only want to exploit our daughters. And they only want to take advantage of our daughters. And I've got a huge problem with that. As a father of 4 adult daughters, I've got a huge problem with that. And I believe that you millennial fathers, you're going to have a lot more issues on your hands having these Gen Alpha daughters. And if you do have a Gen Alpha son, you need to pay very close attention to how they're being exposed, because they're going to come across these men on the internet and they may be participating in these men's groups. Now, the ages of the manosphere, it ranges anywhere from 16 to 50. You have grown-ass men my age that are a part of the manosphere. And as disgusting and as sickening as it is, they're a part of it. Some of these men consider themselves the godfathers of the manosphere. But at the end of the day, they have huge issues with feminists, and they just have huge issues with women overall. And like I said, you'll see in this first video, which is almost 25 minutes long, just the disdain that so many of these men have against women. It's just, it's crazy to me. I don't understand it. I tend to be on the front end of technology. And the reason that I've created my YouTube channel, Grow That YouTube channel, is because I want to keep fathers informed. I provide educational and informational resources. That's what I do. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't consider myself a YouTuber. I provide educational and informational resources for all fathers. And because I care. And I'm very concerned because I will eventually be having grandchildren one day that will probably more than likely be Gen Bravo. Gen Bravo kids will start being born next year in 2025. So I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that my daughters stay safe as adult women and my grandchildren stay safe. And I'm just not, when it comes to men, the reason I named this live stream, why weak men come for our daughters, is I'm tired of bullshit men. I'm tired of bullshit men coming for our daughters. I'm tired of bullshit men talking down to our daughters. I'm just sick of bullshit men. And as a father of 4 adult daughters, I'm not going to sit by and allow these bullshit men to take advantage of our daughters. I'm just not going to do it. I will fight hell and high water before I allow my daughters to be victims of domestic violence, before I allow my daughters to be taken advantage of economically, before I allow my daughters to fall under the helm of any man that thinks that they're going to be violent towards my daughters. As long as I have breath in me, I will always be available to my daughters for their protection and safety, period. Even though they're grown women, I'm not having it. I'm telling you, the easiest way to get me triggered, as these young people say, is come for my girls. And I promise you, you'll see a side that you're not ready for, because I'm not about none of this disrespect. And when I research these videos, they're just disturbing. I looked at over 300 videos, and most of these men, they're just weak. They're weak men. They talk crazy to women. And I don't understand it. I really don't have any words for it. So I'm here as a Gen X father to inform other Gen X fathers and millennial fathers. You're going to have to stay on top of this when it comes to your daughters, because you're not going to be able to keep our daughters away from social media. It's just not going to happen. So what you're going to need to do, fathers, is you're going to need to make the adjustments you need to make, and you're going to have to make sure you're on top of it, because we have a lot of predators that are waiting for our baby girls. They are. And these men, most of them, they're raised without fathers, just like so many of these young girls are raised without fathers. But you know what's interesting about bullshit men? Let me share some game with you. What's interesting about bullshit men in the manosphere is they all talk about women getting on their page. It's interesting how you could be raised without a father as a male and then try to come into a woman's life and tell her she needs to get on your page, like something's wrong with her. But if she's raised without a father and you're raised without a father, how does that make you better as a man? I'm curious to that, because my daughters have always had me in their life. So I showed them and I explained to them what bullshit men do and how bullshit men are going to come at you. And at the end of the day, fathers, it's all about action. My daughters understand. They don't listen to man's words. If you want to find out what a man's all about, watch his actions. Because men have about a 90-day window before they mess up. Most men, they can't go 90 days without the bullshit that they're trying to sell women, without the foolishness and nonsense that they're trying to sell women. They can't do it. Most men that lie, they're going to fold in the first 90 days. So I've taught my daughters, you got to pay attention to a man's actions, not his words. Some of these men, they can come into your life and smooth talk you and, try to explain to you how wonderful they are and how they're going to get down for you. Watch their actions, ladies. That's how you can justify whether or not you're making the right decision with these bullshit men, because there's a lot of bullshit men in the world. The men of Gen X, we're just built different. And I hear all the time from men, well, Mr. Martin, you don't understand. These modern women, they're hard-headed and, they're feminists and all this. It's just crazy, right? And I've always said this. Both men and women have a part in this. This situation going on today with millennial and Gen Z men and millennial and Gen Z women, it shakes me because I do not understand it. And I'm not trying to understand it. I'm going to stay on the front end of it, but we just didn't have to, we had to work hard for women in Gen X. We didn't have all these apps to where you didn't have to not meet their parents and not meet and have conversations with women. What happens today is you can go on a social media app and meet women and swipe left and swipe right and determine whether or not you want to be at that woman. That's just crazy to me. It makes no sense. Social media platforms have really disabled most humans because you've taken out the human interaction. And there's nothing good that can come out of that at all. There's nothing good that can come out of that. When you take out verbal discussion, verbal meaning, sitting in front of someone, looking into their eyes, asking them questions. When you remove that, what do you have? We're human. We're supposed to interact with one another, y'all. We're supposed to have discussions. We're supposed to agree to disagree. So that's what I'm about. That's what my YouTube channel is about. I feel good about it. My YouTube channel is growing. Thank you for those that continue to subscribe to me and are following me. I'm very appreciative and very grateful for the men and women that are commenting on my YouTube shorts and giving me their perspective. The one thing I want to warn you about, whenever you're watching any YouTube shorts on anyone, I would suggest before you make comments, do the research, because a 30 to 60 minute short of a YouTube video, it's not explaining, it's not giving you the proper context. I get a lot of crazy comments on my YouTube shorts, right? They're 30 to 60 seconds. So I have to go back. And when I address these men that are making these crazy comments and I send them the entire video, I can almost guarantee you most of these men, they're not going to watch the whole video because they're not interested in what I'm presenting. They're only interested in, commenting, and it's just crazy. But they're not interested in watching a full-length video of 20 to 30 minutes to understand the context in which I'm using. And I'm just not going to allow that to happen. If you're going to make a negative comment, I'm not going to come after you. I look at my comments, though, because I'm interested in what men and women think. But if you're going to talk crazy to me, I'm going to meet you where you're at. I promise you. You're not going to like it. Because when I push back, I'm going to push back with facts, though. That's just how I get down. But don't come to my YouTube channel with your foolishness and nonsense and just thinking you're going to be able to talk crazy and make a bunch of comments. And you can't defend your position. That's not what my YouTube channel is about. My YouTube channel is purely for fathers of daughters. Women are always welcome as well, but it's for fathers of daughters, girl dads. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So I want to get started and share this first video with you fathers. And this first video, like I said, it's almost 25 minutes long. I have 2 additional videos after that. One's 11 minutes, the other is 10 minutes. And they're both part 1 and 2. So this live stream today is probably going to be anywhere between an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 45 minutes. So I welcome you to stay till the end and watch these videos along with myself. And fathers, you're really going to have to understand what is going on with your baby girls. You really, really are, because these men that are coming for your daughters, coming for our daughters, they're on some different stuff. They really, really are. It's crazy. And I just think that most fathers are not aware of what is going out, what is out there waiting for our daughters. So I do weekly live streams. I'm sharing everything that I can share. And feel free, fathers, to do your own research. Okay? I encourage you to do your own research. All right, fathers, thank you for being present. And let's jump into it.
If there's one thing that the internet has taught me, it's that you can monetize just about anything.
Ice cream so good. Yes, popcorn. Ice cream so good.
Imagine my lack of surprise when people monetized the epidemic of sad and lonely men.
Austin University is the greatest thing that exists on the face of the planet.
That's what I want to teach you on this course.
Unplugging from the matrix of fitness and game.
And you might be thinking, oh, how big is this? Well, business is booming. Dozens of people, loads of YouTube channels that are earning millions of dollars a year selling a lie, claiming to have answers to a very real problem, but just making everything worse. So let's go on a journey together. I'm going to put on my Morpheus cosplay and hand you that red pill. We're going down the rabbit hole of truth. I'm red pilling the red pill and breaking these lonely, desperate men out of their Andrew Tate worshipping mind matrix. One thing that is impossible to ignore when discussing the rise of internet ideologies and movements is that of misinformation and bias within the media. Clickbait-driven headlines and manipulative algorithms often make it difficult to know where to get reliable information. That's why I've been using Ground News, an app and website that combines news from around the world in one place and provides context that mainstream media does not, like political affiliation, source ownership, and factuality ratings. They are a small team working to hold the media accountable, and they are sponsoring this video. For instance, let's search Andrew Tate. On the website, we can see there are almost 500 stories published on him in the last 3 months. Ground News shows the top articles and even blind spot stories that are underreported by the media. Look at this story. Apple removing Tate's app. Only 33% of coverage on this story is coming from the right, making a blind spot for anyone who doesn't get their information from these sources. It's interesting to see some sources headline the claims, calling the app misogynistic and a pyramid scheme, while others say Apple was slammed for keeping the app. Ground News makes it super easy to understand where even your own bias might be. It is an important resource to avoid living in a bubble of algorithm-driven coverage. Go to ground.news/Kira and sign up through my link. Get 30% off unlimited access to data-driven information through my link before October 15th. What is the red pill? How did we get here? Why does it exist? And who cares? All very important questions, but let's tackle them in order of importance. So what is the red pill? The red pill has been many things. Originally, it was an allegory for transgender, according to the creator of the term, Lily Wachowski, who popularized it in The Matrix. However, and very ironically, now the red pill is used by a group of predominantly men who co-opt it as an ideology around how to live life, specifically about the real truth of society and their place within it. This mostly pertains to masculinity, conspiracy theories, making money, and women. The red pill is also not the only word that this movement goes by. It can also, in many popular spaces, be substituted with the word manosphere. If you've not heard of these things, you might be surprised to learn just how huge this movement is. So the question of how we got here comes down to one man, sort of.
Am I successful? Am I competent? You know, am I achieving things? Am I respected? If you start to look at these indicators of your life, you're going to end up being happier.
Now, I do need to say that Andrew Tate himself has said he isn't red pill and that he finds the whole concept and most of the people involved to be cringe, but his unwillingness to co-opt the term is relevant to the reality, and that is his talking points are almost identical to the whole space, and his popularity is what has accelerated the movement. And I do mean accelerated, because even without Andrew Tate or any other manosphere figurehead, this was an inevitability in modern society. We were already headed down this path. Andrew Tate was never the cause. He was simply the most prevalent symptom. Why do I say this? Well, let's answer the question of why it exists in the first place. It'll probably only take you a few minutes to Google search if you've not already seen these very shocking statistics when it comes to the rise of loneliness in men, especially young men. This is the real epidemic that is going to claim more lives than any contagious disease, and it's eroding the very foundation of modern society. For the record, this problem does not just envelop men, but it is more prevalent statistically for a multitude of reasons. On the face of it, men have less friends than ever before, they spend less time socializing with the friends that they do have than ever before, they're virgins for far longer, have sex less frequently overall, and they are self-deleting at an alarmingly high rate, with numbers trending upwards greater than ever before. They're also less likely to seek mental health assistance, more likely to turn to drugs or substance abuse to cope with these factors which don't even play into the self-deleting stat, and are overall becoming increasingly disenfranchised with the world, or most importantly, their place within it. So to answer the question of why Andrew Tate, why the red pill, why the manosphere, Sneeko, podcasts like Fresh and Fit, the red pill godfather Rollo Tomasi, and many others exist, it's very simple. It's because they need to exist. Supply and demand. These people didn't just appear for no reason. They arrived at the right time with the right message. And that is obviously not me giving them my rubber stamp of approval, as I believe each one of the people I just listed, as well as the majority of the manosphere space, is a counterintuitive detriment to young men's lives. For reasons that we'll mostly go over in the next section, this is just me saying that this movement didn't arrive overnight for no reason and brainwash hundreds of millions of men. The male loneliness epidemic was already here. It's a cancer eating society. The manosphere presented itself as chemotherapy, bringing with it total destruction of the body, but without the added benefit of potentially eradicating the cancer. Not to say there are no good pieces of advice from any of these people, or a well-rationed person couldn't learn a few real truths from these spaces, such as eating right, exercising, socializing, and trying to better your situation financially. But these few truths are things almost anybody could tell you without the added baggage of what is adjacent to the grift of these male self-help gurus. I'm of course talking about conspiracy theories and hatred.
Obesity comes from you Jews affecting our media
I'm
with
the
their
reason
fucking...
you're fat.
No, you guys brought McDonald's and all that shit.
One of the very few men on earth I do trust, good old Alex Jones, he said this 2 months before 9/11.
They don't want you to be masculine. The biggest threat to their agenda is an independent, free-thinking man.
And to answer the last question of who cares, well, I know on social media nobody really cares about the fact that young men in particular are suffering, because it's cool to be inclusive and empathetic to everybody, except for those you deem to have power as a group, despite the fact that most average men have little to no power at all over their own lives, let alone society. But you should care, because this is a reflection of that society. Not just that, but you probably have men in your lives as well that are struggling with things like this. Could be your brothers, fathers, sons, cousins, friends, or old acquaintances. I don't think it can be simultaneously true that we say everybody should get help, they all deserve compassion and understanding, but then demonize a clear growing trend that could bring economic and societal downturns just because it's cool to shit on men online, which would probably sound better if it wasn't me, a man, saying this, but I am because it is important. The rise of the Tate cells, as well as the growing incel movement, hatred of women, conspiracy nuts, and a whole other host of issues exist because as a society, this issue is prevalent and persistent. I think society in general is too busy looking at the surface of those, idiots who follow this stupid rhetoric to understand the reason that they do is because they're lost and these people are telling them that it's okay. These grifters that are making them believe all these crazy, wild things are the only ones who are compassionately speaking to these men. They're making them believe, and the truth is, they are speaking pure lies, designed almost entirely for personal gain and enrichment. So let's talk about the real red pill. The reality of the matter is, the red pill does have some merit when taken at face value. There have been shifts in society that resulted in vastly different circumstances for everybody, but especially for young men. For starters, society has moved beyond where most people live, and if they live where society now does, they then lack the skills to interact in the real world. That as a sentence doesn't make sense, right? Let me explain. Society for most younger people, as well as for most lonely people, exists online. Their society exists on social media. But where is it that they need to be in order to actually better their situation? The real world with real people, face-to-face interactions, and social situations. This problem is compounding. The more time people spend online, whether as an escape from the pressures of real life because they don't feel that they fit in, or for comfort, the less social they're going to become, the more awkward any potential interactions will go. And of course, this leads to them being less and less likely to find the meaningful friendships or relationships that they need to live happily and normally. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is the problem that gets worse for the younger generation, especially after lockdowns where people have grown up on social media, hang out in person less, homeschool, go to college online, work remotely, date using apps, and generally skew towards hobbies that isolate them further. To put it simply, they spend less time with real people and therefore are less confident or capable people in face-to-face society, which is where they probably have the highest chance to meet people who are going to give them the things that they're missing in life and remove that loneliness. A lot of people nowadays have either grown up not learning how to socialize because of social media and the internet age, or they've forgotten, whichever one it is, they currently are not equipped with the tools to navigate the real world. You only have to look at cultures like Japan, where they literally have a word for this, ikikomori. We also have words in the West, neets, incel is obviously one that people throw around a lot when people are just, really bad at talking to women and, of course, are involuntary celibate. Losers, when people don't have friends and can't seem to get into good social situations. This is a problem that transcends barriers of culture. This is how you know it just exists and it's growing in popularity just due to the way that people interact with the world. This, of course, plays into the next problem, which is dating in 2023. Most people believe that due to the shift of society being online, there is no alternative to meet potential friends or romantic relationships without dating apps. Instead, they find themselves swiping on Tinder, where statistically and common sense dictates results are directly tied to one attribute and one attribute alone, attractiveness. Let's be honest, most of us are not that good looking, and on an app that is basically unhealthy fast food, of course people are going to pick the tastiest snacks. There isn't nutritional value there that they care about because they're there for a quick bite, and whatever looks the nicest is going to be picked. The common sense thing here is that this has nothing to do with women or men. Of course, the red pill does present it as such, where women only want a 6-foot-tall giga chad. This just has everything to do with the fact of the matter. If you show someone 10 people without any real indication of other redeemable or disqualifying traits, asking them to pick from the list using exclusively only their physical appearance, of course the result will mean the most attractive people get the most results. This leads to men becoming disenfranchised and thinking that women only want them if they're this thing that they are not, which essentially removes all of their responsibility in the situation. because what are they going to do? Grow taller, get more attractive suddenly? When you take the problem out of somebody's hands and their own ability to influence it, of course they're going to turn to things that are external and start blaming the people that are making these decisions, because they can't blame themselves, can they? Obviously, there is a factor that society has moved forward for women as well, giving them greater opportunities for careers and for pay. This has essentially killed the one main selling point every man on the planet had in the dating economy of old times, which is an income. Now men are required to bring more to the table than just a paycheck at a time when men seem more lost in their own value than ever before. Also, because of healthcare increasing, it means that women can have children later, so they're not rushed by biology to have children when they're very young, which means they're going to mature and make better decisions about which type of people they're going to have in their life for the long term. Now, is this the common man's fault? Sure, somewhat, a little bit, because everybody can change and they all bear responsibility for their own circumstances to an extent, but it's also just the way society now exists, and it's kind of happened without anybody really paying too much attention until the problem now exists. And realistically, it's not a question of right or wrong. All of this and much more leads to the bigger overall problem of why the red pill and manosphere has grown so exponentially. What do I mean? Well, in just about every walk of life, it's easier to blame something that isn't you. If you are this average unsocialized man who has little to no friends, no luck with the opposite sex, life's passing you by and you just don't know what to do about it, you've got no confidence, and your options for who to blame are yourself or society, chances are you're going to blame society. It's just easier to do. It's the self-defeating reality that if you do make the choice to blame society, it's going to change nothing about the circumstance and only send you down a path of manosphere, which is going to be further self-destruction. But that's what people are doing, whether knowingly or not. Now, of course, there are a million social stigmas of talking about problems or opening up emotionally to people, which for whatever reason is frowned upon as a man, but even less likely to happen since, again, statistically men these days have less friends, and with the growing manosphere influence, those friends are more likely to tell you to stop being a pussy and watch a video about Andrew Tate with Giga Chad music in the background, because of course that will fix all of your problems. Talking about them would be something only a beta male does. You obviously can't talk about it on social media either, because if I've seen anything about this, it's that people are just going to come in and say you don't deserve to have problems, because you're probably just a man. So of course, when nobody's talking to you, nobody's listening to you, nobody's really representing your problems, when somebody shows up who looks like they're in shape, who looks like they're a really masculine man, who's doing all the things that you want to do, who lives the life that you would love to live, and he's the only person talking to you, of course, you're probably going to listen. And these are just some of the factors that led us to where we are today. I'm sure there's going to be more, but I could be talking about this all day without addressing the next point, which is that the red pill is just capitalism and greed from lying narcissists who are LARPing as the saviors of young men, while instead just causing them harm. The advice they give is terrible for 97% of their audience, meaning that they're selling out the vast majority, and the 3% who wind up becoming wealthy following their advice will make the situation even worse for the other 97%. It's a toxic wasteland of a few useful pieces of life advice wrapped up in hate that will poison an impressionable man's brain into becoming a worse person, and therefore even less likely to ever find a woman who would want anything to do with them. Now, if there's something else the internet has taught me, hate is a very powerful tool. Once you recognize that the easiest way to build influence is to turn one group against another, you will see it in everything that people do online. Politics is probably the most prevalent one. It's us versus them. We are the righteous. They are the evil. Everything we do is okay. Everything they do is bad. If we do the same things, it's for good reasons, but they're doing it for bad ones. Every conflict is black and white. Why? Because it's easy and it feels good. The barrier for entry to this conflict is super low. It's way more accessible than any form of nuance would be, and it's easy to digest. It simply works. And that's exactly what the manosphere has done to convince these men who already were willing to believe things because they didn't want to blame themselves. They've told them it's team men versus team women. They use anecdotes of when a woman does something bad or wrong, and pretend as if they're not anecdotes at all, that there can't be good women and bad women, like there's good men and bad men. It's just all evidence that women are built this way and they are the problem. So they're making everything simple by design. And I can't say for sure that all the people doing this are lying or grifting, but I can say that given enough time, each one of them gets caught living a contradictory life to what they tell their audience to live. Whether it's saying paying for sex is for losers and you shouldn't do that, and then being caught on sugar baby websites trying to find women to pay to hang out with.
You approached me on a sugar daddy website and asked me to be your sugar baby and then
Never
couldn't
did.
afford my allowance.
Never did.
He couldn't afford my $10,000 allowance a month and said, haha, that's funny. Why don't you just come on my podcast instead?
Or saying sex workers like OnlyFans girls are the bane of society, and you're platforming them constantly, which results in their audience subbing to them and making them more successful. Or, of course, having those women on the podcast and having sex with them, yet calling them 304s, which is the red pill slang for hoes. Or maybe it's when they say that single mothers are used goods and they're worthless, but then get caught being married to a previous single mother who they lied about and said that her daughter was his niece because he was just too ashamed to admit that he loved a single mother and her daughter.
I got a 13-year-old niece that stays here at least twice a week.
And so as we now look at her application on the screen and go to the section describing her household, it states, do you have dependents? Yes. Does dependent live with you? Yes. Dependent's age, 10 years old.
Or, of course, when they call out girls for being fake and having plastic surgery and using makeup, but then get hair plugs, liposuction, fake teeth, and use makeup on their own podcasts. Maybe it's saying that men should never settle for a girl who has had a lot of sexual partners, but sleeping with every attractive woman that they can.
A lot of girls are hoes. A lot of girls don't deserve a relationship. A lot of girls don't deserve marriage. And I know this is kind of controversial, but this is what I tell guys. I tell them you need to be at least 35 years old, have had sex with 50 girls.
Thus creating a world full of their alleged biggest problem and fucking up for all the guys they're supposed to be helping. The entire red pill space is basically rules for thee and not for me. Some of the funniest claims that you can disprove immediately, just if you've lived a real life at all, are that women are more than happy to let their boyfriend or husband cheat on them so long as that man is high value enough, meaning she will share her romantic partner out of fear that she couldn't get anybody so good, ignoring the fact that this person would then not be good to most women because they're not just out to use you as an ATM and live that life. This is not how adult relationships work with the vast majority of people. Essentially, the whole red pill seems to be a way to justify living the life of a teenage boy's dream, sleeping with a different Instagram model or OnlyFans girl every night, telling everyone who disagrees with the red pill that they are a beta male, blue-pilled soy boy. But this is a lie. The whole red pill is a lie. You only have to engage with the simplest concept to understand that. For example, these guys preach that the way to break free of all your problems is to become a high-value man, meaning that you're in shape and wealthy. The percentage of people who are in shape and wealthy is like 3% or lower. So by that definition, it cannot happen to 97% of their audience, meaning they're giving very specific advice to a very small number of people, but the vast majority of people are listening and it isn't solving any of their massive problems, it's actually making it worse. Maybe if you are a multimillionaire who's in good shape, you can treat women the way that they do. But the problem is that when the vast majority of their audience is hearing that advice and seeing how they live, and then they're treating women the same way, that's not helping them, that is hurting them. And since the title of this video will be something about how incredibly successful and profitable the business of exploiting lonely men is, let's look at how successful it is. Fresh and Fit is probably the biggest self-help guru red pill podcast, and they're pulling in tens of millions of views per month on just YouTube alone, which used to be, before they got demonetized, easily over $50,000 a month just in ads, without product placement, without donations from their fans, without their courses that they sell, without their other platforms like Rumble. And you don't have to go far to see just how low effort and low class this space can be in terms of the people that can pull in millions of views, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions a year. I mean, just look at this dude. He's a VTuber of a low animated JPEG vampire who never shows his face, and his entire content is reacting to women on TikTok, telling his audience of bitter, angry, and lonely men that all the women on the videos are used up 304s who no one will ever love, and how it's all their own fault. It's basically not giving anybody advice, just a space to come where they can point at women and say, haha, that's your fault. You didn't love me. So it's good that you're upset and bad things are happening in your life. It's plain and simple people just feeling content to live in hate. In the real world, the solution to men's problems don't need all of this. And it definitely doesn't need all the conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, racism, and other nonsense that gets platformed at the same time by all these podcasts and manosphere grifters. Obviously, I've acknowledged the problem is real, that there is a growing number of men who are really struggling with how to live their life. But there are things that they can do. And I'm also sure that these platforms or these people do sometimes give good advice, and people have made positive steps in their life due to that advice and would claim that they've been helped by Andrew Tate and the Red Pill and things like that. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but there's a limit to the advice that they're giving where it goes overboard into very, very unhelpful things. Of course, you should definitely go to the gym. You should eat right. You should sleep at a regular time for 8 hours if you can. Most importantly, you should find hobbies that put you in the real world with your peers. Work at socializing, find people who like the things that you do. And of course, treat people like they're individuals who deserve to start out with a blank slate of who they are and not with a list of preconceived and negative attributes that some guy on the internet told you were true while profiting from doing so. For every negative anecdote that you hear, you can also just find a positive one too. So this is actually a huge problem in society now, and if you were paying attention, you saw this coming a long time ago. Even before Andrew Tate showed up and accelerated the movement forward and into the mainstream, there were communities just full of hating women, like the Red Pill subreddit, the incel forums. These things existed and were growing exponentially in popularity. So where does all this end? Well, who knows? The issue is that this problem is yet again turned into another internet war where it's us versus them and people are drawing lines in the sand, not understanding that this mindset has gotten us nowhere close to solving societal issues and just reinforcing the positions of each other, making it easier for the people exploiting the male loneliness epidemic for their own gain, while making everything orders of magnitude worse for the people involved, who are essentially just the victims. So that's the insanely profitable business of exploiting the male loneliness epidemic. Thanks for watching.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts on this video? Very deep. Very, very deep, fathers. And you should be concerned. You should be very, very concerned because this is what the internet has become. And this is the reason why I named my live stream, Why Do Weak Men Come for Our Daughters? When I researched the 300 videos, I researched on Red Pill, and I was addressing specifically Black men. This is why. This video that I just shared with you is just so direct, and it makes so much sense. And these men, they're hustlers. They're nothing more than hustlers. The majority of them have never been married. The majority of them have never been in successful relationships with women. Right? I'm not going to call them losers. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to call them weak though, because that's what they are. They're weak mentally. In my life of 58 years of age, I have never gone to another man for advice on women, how to get women, how to court women. And I've already said this in an earlier video. Most men, they're shady as shit. I'm a man. We had these same type of men in Gen X. We had these same weak men in Gen X. The only difference was we didn't have the internet. So it wasn't always in your face, right? So millennial fathers, you have a lot of work to put in because it's not going anywhere. And if you don't teach your sons to respect women, respect their mothers, respect their female cousins, respect their aunts, respect their sisters. This is what can end up. A lot of them can end up in the manosphere and be trying to bring violence to women. I'm not down with any of this. I'm not. It bothers me. I am not down with any of this. And like I said, the 300 videos I researched on Black male content creators, straight bullshit, men. All of them. These brothers are on the internet giving this bad advice to other millennial men and Gen Z men. They're weak Black men. And they're horrible. One of the things I'm learning about YouTube as I further my platform, most of these men that are doing this, manosphere, they do reaction videos. So pretty much what they're doing is they're taking information that's already out there because they're not original. None of these men are original in their content. They call themselves content creators. But to me, if you're going to be a content creator, don't you think you should be creating your own original content, bringing solutions to helping people become better? But most of the videos that I researched, they're just gossiping men. They're just like females. There's nothing worse than a gossip man that's a female. It's horrible. The videos I researched, they're horrible. And I mean, these are some gossiping men, and they have the audacity to tell you and I they're masculine. They have the audacity to tell you and I they're the shit. They have the audacity to tell you and I they're alphas. They're not alphas at all. They're weak. Right? So fathers, you better pay attention. Because Gen Alpha girls are up next. Gen Alpha boys are up next. Right now, they're going to be courted. These platforms that pop up, anybody can be on YouTube. They can say whatever they want to say. They can have their own opinion on whatever they want to have their opinion on. Right? The days are gone of journalism. The days are gone of presenting facts. Those days are gone. When I come across these YouTube channels, sad. Disturbingly sad, because none of these men take accountability, and then they have the balls and the audacity to offer classes and talk to men, and it's crazy to me that they're hustlers, y'all. Don't get hustled. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing, and they're all saying the same thing. They're pimping out other men. The lonely man industry is economically feasible. Makes a lot of money. You saw the video, right? And you ladies, you have to do better. You have to do a lot better. I know a lot of you ladies didn't have your fathers in your lives. I get that. But that doesn't give you the excuse to allow these men to shit all over you and disrespect you and talk crazy to you. When he mentioned, I looked at some of the videos for Fresh and Fit. And these two young men, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. And the women that they're bringing on their platforms are all under 25 years of age. Most of them have been, they don't have fathers. And they're not very educated women. Most of them haven't gone to college. I'm not saying you have to go to college to be educated, but they don't have common sense. It is painful to watch every day these women that come on these platforms and they allow these men to exploit them, talk crazy to them, tell them they ain't shit. And they sit there and they take it. I don't understand. I really, as a father of daughters, the amount of work I had to put in to make sure my daughters stay protected and safe, it's crazy, man. this is crazy to me, and it really, really bothers me. So this is my journey. You know, my book, Daddy's Girls, I cover this, fathers, our sense of urgency, what we need to have in order to ensure that our daughters don't end up this way. Because when you have young women that don't have their fathers in their life, they're not protected and safe. They're not. And then here comes these little clowns rolling up on them, talking crazy to them. We got to do better. We got to do a lot better, fathers. Okay, I got 2 more videos I want to share with you. The first one is part 1. They're talking about incels. It will explain itself. Okay, fathers? Give me a second to set it up.
Server, which
Okay, fathers, here we go. Video number 2.
we've been investigating the hidden online world of incels.
I have not interacted with a female that is not related to me in over 3 years.
They're mostly young men, usually virgins, who can't find a romantic or sexual partner.
I must become more attractive. It's my last chance.
But on the extreme end, some incels are becoming more menacing.
There was quite a few women that I did want to break their nose so they would be ugly.
Where staunch incels blame women and attractive men for the reason why they're not in a relationship.
Around 60 terror attacks that can be linked to incel actors.
We wanted to know who these incels were, what they believed in, and just how extreme it could get. In this 2-part investigation, we gain access to a world that is usually closed off, especially to women. Before we start this story, we want to let you know that it contains violent and distressing content, including references to sexual violence and racist slurs. We're on our way to meet 5 incels who we've been chatting to online for about a month now. They usually chat to each other in forums and in servers, but today they're meeting up. And they're letting us join. One of them, who we'll call Tom, is well known in the community for building a server, which is kind of like an online chat room. He's agreed to meet us first at a hotel.
There is most likely not a single female on the planet that would be willing to date me.
How do you define what an incel is?
An incel is someone who is unable to get into a romantic relationship.
He's nervous to be on camera and has brought a mask with him to protect his identity.
Being an incel has become quite sensationalist. I am worried that openly identifying as such in public might affect job prospects.
What do you think when you see a woman on the street?
I don't feel like I live in the same society as her. I think that every woman who encounters me on the street is inherently disgusted by me. I'm physically unattractive. I'm visibly autistic. And I have no experience speaking to females.
Tom casually browsed forums a few years ago in high school. Now he feels so connected to the incel philosophy that he built his own chat room.
Sometimes incels can say some edgy statements.
Can you give examples?
An edgy statement would be something like, I hate all women, all women, every woman is evil. Sometimes a small minority of users, when they're lashing out in anger, might make jokes about sexual violence. I wouldn't paint the server as something too serious. A lot of this is just people just having like fun social interaction, fun banter.
In the 20 minutes we spent looking at the chat, we saw Nazi symbols, racial slurs, and unsurprisingly, hate towards women.
This is an example of an incel and a female beefing with each other. Mm-hmm. The female said, "Y'all are boring," and this incel responded in anger.
You want to read the message?
No. This server has been taken down around 10 times, but those takedowns have not really had a dent on its popularity.
It's hard to know how many incels exist, especially when they connect in private servers like this one. On the most popular forum, there are millions of visits each year. By some estimates, at the very least, there are thousands of dedicated members worldwide.
I do blame women to a significant extent for why we have so many men single, depressed, lonely. There may be definitely elements of misogyny in the community. It's only reactive to being unable to get with females. It would probably dissipate if a female showed interest in them. What board are you browsing? G.
We later catch up with the rest of the group in the park.
Hello, female.
They're in their late teens and early 20s. Most of them haven't given us their real names. After a month of speaking online, they've agreed to meet with us in person to explain a bit more about who they are. They agree to chat over lunch on the condition that their faces are blurred.
Is anyone here dating?
No.
No.
Definitely.
I wouldn't
be here. No.
If you're dating, then you're not an incel. So.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's that hard line?
If
If
women-
you can date, chances are you can have sex.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make you an incel.
Like if you're talking about going on dates, I think you can go on dates and be incel.
I'm more hardline in my definition.
Some allude to a common incel belief. They call it the black pill. It's the idea that women will only ever go for physically attractive men, that they've lost the genetic lottery, and their situation is hopeless.
Do your parents know that you're an incel?
No. My dad's like asked me when am I going to get a girlfriend or whatever. I feel like my mum knows I'm a loser.
Are you all at uni at the moment?
No, I'm working.
No, I'm at uni.
I'm studying, kind of, yeah.
It's mostly just STEM subjects.
Yeah, no incel's doing like social work or something.
And why do you think it's those kind of jobs?
You don't have to talk to people, you can just focus on ideas and stuff.
Yeah, I said I haven't spoken to an IRL void in 3 years. And that's partially because I do a STEM degree. Like, I've never been paired with a female. Thank f***. If I did, I'd probably just walk out.
I wanted to know what direction the incel movement was headed in. So I sat down with a researcher who spent 18 months looking at the largest incel forum on the internet.
We gathered over 1 million posts from just over a year of activity on the forum.
He found the number of visits were growing slowly and posts were getting more extreme. We asked him to read some out.
So this one is called Women Peak at 12. Who in their right mind would prefer a 22-year-old roastie to this? And they've got an image of a 12-year-old child. National Socialist Germany was the best country for incels. Women are designed to be raped. Males have a sufficient strength advantage, and this was probably our main method of procreating. It's all designed to make women seem like they're subhuman.
In the most popular forum, about half of its members are Americans and Brits, but there are also Australians in there too. The group we've spoken to have never expressed any of these thoughts to us. Callum says that people who end up in these spaces tend to be unemployed, have mental health vulnerabilities, and are insecure about their looks.
Many users claim to be neurodivergent. Unfortunately, the answers they're getting are that women are to blame for all this, and it just sort of breeds this toxic, violent rage towards women that's really dangerous.
But not all incels hate women and subscribe to the extreme end of things. Some go to great lengths to attract them.
I am making some gains.
For Raymond, he's hoping the gym is the answer. In YouTube videos, he talks about his journey to self-improvement, and so far he's had 500,000 views.
Hey guys, what's up? Decline here. I am 30 and still alone.
We're about an hour out of Melbourne and meet Raymond as he heads to the gym.
I go to the gym 6 days a week. I want to build a good amount of muscle and get lean and shredded. It seems that a lot of people have been successful with that. I still haven't had a successful one-on-one encounter with a girl.
Why do you think you've not had much success with women?
Firstly, I'm a very small guy. Like 6-foot guys are a lot more successful. I don't know how to talk to women or anyone.
Up until now, most of the incels that we'd spoken to were virgins, but that's not the case with Raymond.
It has been some time since I had any sexual encounter that was not paid. I met some couples for threesomes, MMF threesomes, and I found them not really fulfilling. Everybody has those same desires to want to feel desired and wanted and loved. I don't subscribe to a lot of the common views of, say, black pill incels. Like, not everything is determined by your genes. These groups, I feel, have kind of hijacked the term.
Raymond is hoping to have changed his luck with women by his mid-30s.
If I haven't succeeded, I'll probably start focusing on other things, maybe just enjoying my life and just rotting, as I say. I'll go back to my video games, start watching anime again, and maybe get a job.
Tom says he's no longer involved in running the server, but he's still given up on the idea of ever being in a relationship.
I'm rather content now. It's just sort of like a huge, like, gaping hole in your life and fitting into society, I guess. Having bleak views affects my mental health and many other incels' mental health by making us, like, much less caring about our future prospects. The community is really the only reason why I stay, and as the situation for young men continues to get worse, it is inevitable that subgroups like incels will grow.
In the next part of our investigation, we look at how much of this online hate can spill out into the real world.
A man obsessed with guns.
With an online history of misogyny.
Killed his mother and 4 others.
Having all these violent fantasies, constantly thinking about it, you know, rape, violence, murder.
And their only goal with me was to acquire some kind of sexual encounter.
If you like this...
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts? That's the first part 1. We're going to look at part 2 here in a second. Fathers, last week I did a live stream. It was called Allowing Our Daughters to Date Before the Age of 16 Will Destroy Our Homes. Fathers, I worked in the criminal justice system for 20 years. I am a former state of Colorado juvenile probation officer, and I also worked in K-12 education for 10 years as a teacher, dean of students, and a restorative justice coordinator. So I have 30 years that I worked with children and families from all socioeconomic backgrounds for 30 years. And if you millennial fathers are not frightened, you better be, because this is what is becoming. This makes absolutely no sense to me. None. I'm very grateful that my daughters are older, and they're adult women, because trying to maneuver what is going on here with these Gen Alpha girls and Gen Alpha boys, it's going to be challenging. It is definitely going to be challenging because you have online communities. I mean, you listen to these young men. So many of these young men are talking about they don't even like little girls. They want to hurt them. For what? Because they're socially awkward? Because they don't know how to communicate? That's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy to me. And when I was doing my research to bring this live stream together, I got to tell you, I probably researched a good 20 videos before I decided to do these top 3. There's so many videos that are out there that are talking about the manosphere. But I wanted to make sure whatever I'm presenting educationally and informationally is on point. because there's a lot of foolishness and nonsense out there as well. So fathers, you have a lot on your plates. Gen Alpha girls, they're turning 14. This is what they're exposed to right now, your sons. This is what they're exposed to. So you're going to have to do something different, fathers. You're going to have to make a lot of adjustments differently than I had to make. All right, there's one more video, fathers. Let me get it set up.
They're mostly young.
Okay, fathers, here's part 2. I'd just like to say that all videos that I show are in there entirely. I do not cut the videos. I do not clip them. They are available on YouTube. They are not mine, but it's fair use. So all videos that I'm using are fair use. They're in the description. I also included 2 of my very own videos that are in the description because I addressed black males specifically back in July. Okay, fathers, part 2.
In pockets of the internet, there is a subset of men who call themselves incels, and we've been meeting with them.
Obviously, I had violent thoughts. You do me dirty, I will do you dirty.
They're mostly young men, usually virgins, who blame women and attractive guys for why they aren't in a relationship or having sex.
There is most likely not a single female on the planet that would be willing to date me.
In a growing online movement, many buy into a hateful, misogynistic, and sometimes violent rhetoric.
I don't want to be in those spaces anymore. I don't want to see the things that they're saying.
So what happens when this online hate spills out into the real world?
How did this young man who seemed to have everything become a mass murderer?
Before we start this story, we want to let you know that it contains violent and distressing content, including references to sexual violence and racist slurs. First up, we're meeting an incel who used to have violent fantasies about women, but now no longer does.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to meet you. I used to be a full-blown incel. Hate women. You know.
What were some of the worst thoughts you were thinking?
Obviously, I had violent thoughts. I always held back, you know, in real life. Thoughts of like women that I did want to, you know, rape. As a teenager, there was quite a few women that I did want to break their nose so they would be ugly and couldn't get a hot boyfriend.
Ryan, which is not his real name, was 15 when incels started emerging online.
Like it was everywhere and I got pretty involved in it. All my friends got pretty involved in it.
The website he visited is now the biggest incel forum on the internet, where hatred towards women is encouraged.
And while I regret having those thoughts, I don't blame myself. Obviously it's bad. I've recognized it's bad. I don't have those thoughts anymore. But all in all, I felt the way I felt for a reason. And I feel like, you know, every other incel feels like that as well.
Ryan says he's always felt like an outcast. In his teenage years, he was bullied for his height, and he says all of those bullies were women.
I was taught women are queens, you know, respect women, all that stuff. I wasn't allowed to ever discuss how bad women could be. I have had a sexual partner before, but I've really struggled with expressing myself to anybody at all.
Now 21, Ryan still identifies as an incel, but is trying to move away from a community that he calls toxic.
The majority opinion is kind of disgusting. I see the most foul shit of my life every day. The pedophilia. It's quite rampant. They can't get a girlfriend, so they're resorting to whatever women they can find.
Ryan says he's seen other incels laugh at videos of people being dismembered, and sometimes even more.
There's a lot of them that just enjoy seeing people suffer. Like, it's stupid bitch, she got raped. She just deserved it, lol. It's really disgusting. They just sort of brush it to the side, like, oh, these are just satirical posts. It's like, no, but they do feel that way.
Incels are mostly young men who believe women will only ever date the most attractive guys. It's a community fixated on its inability to find a partner or have sex. But when Ryan got a girlfriend, he was shunned.
You're a traitor, get out, you're not incel. Slowly over time realised that if I keep having this horrible toxic mindset, I'm never going to go anywhere in life.
Even though he's trying to leave the incel world, he still has some strong feelings towards women.
It's more just jealousy that women sort of get dealt a little bit of an easier hand in life than men. Like, it's always expected for men, approach the girl, buy her stuff, shit like that. These days I feel pretty neutral about women. I don't hate them as violently as I used to.
And while Ryan hasn't acted on those violent thoughts, others have. Josh is a researcher who's been looking at the link between incels and violent terror attacks.
We know that they're on the increase internationally. In North America, 60 terror attacks that can be linked to incel actors.
One of those terror attacks was the infamous killing spree of Elliot Rodger.
7 people are dead and another 13 injured in what Californian police have called a premeditated mass murder.
Before his attack, he published a lengthy manifesto blaming women and attractive men for why he hadn't found a girlfriend. More recently, a British incel posted videos raging against his mother and his inability to attract women. After posting those videos, he killed 5 people, including his mother.
The vast majority of incels are reasonably peaceable. In relation to attacks carried out by incels in Australia, there are no known attacks.
But he believes incels may be linked to other crimes.
Law enforcement aren't always attuned to what may constitute an incel terror attack. In many cases, they've been treated as murders rather than terror attacks by authorities.
On a number of occasions, Australia's National Intelligence Agency, ASIO, has called out incels as a potential threat to national security.
They are just violent extremist misogynists who believe women are the root of all of their problems, and they've killed people overseas. And we have people with those beliefs here in this country.
I and a lot of the other younger girls and boys in these communities were effectively groomed by the older people around us.
Although the majority of incels are men, Lani was one of the few women allowed into the community. She connected in online chat rooms.
In most of these community servers, you would find probably 2 to 5 women, and everyone knows who they are. I guess I've always felt pretty outcasted in school. I'd say that was one of the main reasons I stuck around, because you get that attention, and I didn't really get that outside of the internet.
Lani was 14 when she joined the incel community. But by 16, she wanted nothing to do with it.
There were a lot of older men weaseling their way into your close circle and getting you to open up, even get us to lie about our ages. And their only goal with me was to acquire some kind of relationship or sexual encounter. They go for younger women because they're typically more vulnerable.
And what kind of things would they tell you?
Like typical grooming things, phrases like, "You're so mature for your age," or "You're not like the other girls."
With some of the incels, she had online and real-life connections, but she says many of them used her.
I experienced sextortion. My first experiences were them taking photos or videos of me without my knowledge in very compromising positions, and then threatening me with those things to post it online into the dark web, possibly, and have it circulate for the rest of your life.
And she says what happened to her isn't even the worst of what she saw inside the community.
In most of the communities, majority of the guys had some story where they had been accused of something, the most severe being rape.
Lani told me that other incels overseas had been arrested for violence and being with underage girls.
After the second or third one, I was like, okay, there is definitely a pattern here. I don't want to be in those spaces anymore. I just don't want to be there. I don't want to see the things that they're saying, and I don't want to know about, what's happening in there.
There are hundreds, potentially tens of thousands of men in Australia who feel so marginalised from wider society that they need to gather in these communities to find some sort of connection with others.
Josh says it's difficult to engage with incels, who are often hidden away in private online communities.
There is a vacuum of information for young men who spend a good chunk of their lives online, who are being hit with misogynistic material, not only daily, but hourly, by the minute.
So now that you're trying to put some distance between yourself and the community, where does that leave you?
Well, it's only up from here, I think. It's nothing but toxicity for the most part, so I think I'm just going to move on from it completely. Eventually, I think it'll take a few years.
Why do you think it'll take a few years?
It's just all the mental conditioning that I've experienced as a teenager. I've got to sort of reverse most of that thinking.
So for someone who hasn't reached the same headspace as you, how do you think we can engage with those incels still in the community?
Take them seriously. Treat them like humans, because that's what they've really sort of deep down always wanted.
If you like this video and want to see more, subscribe to the Feeds YouTube channel.
Okay, fathers. I needed to do this video, this live stream, excuse me. I needed to do this live stream. It was necessary. And as you can see, with the educational and informational information that was provided to you today, this is what you're up against. Point blank, period. This is what you're facing as millennial fathers. Your daughters, Gen Alpha. Your sons, Gen Alpha. This is where we're at, dads. This is what social media platforms have become. So I want to thank you for viewing another live stream. I am doing live streams once a week. I am excited. I am blessed. And I feel fortunate enough as I continue to build capacity with fathers of daughters, girl dads, the possibilities of my YouTube channel growing, getting better, and engaging more. So I'm a very, very patient man. I know it's going to take some time. For those of you that want to comment, feel free. Whenever, the live stream's here, feel free to comment. I'll put your comments up. Let the world see what you're thinking, how you're feeling. Appreciate you, fathers, from all ethnic groups, from all cultures. Okay, this is from B. Martin. Until next week's live stream, I appreciate you, dads, fathers of daughters, girl dads. Be safe. Keep your heads up. Keep grinding. I'll holler at you next week. Peace.